Ready? All right, good evening. I'm Sarah Leaders. I'm the Acting Public Works Director and Transportation Engineer here at the City of Milton. I've been here almost since the beginning, so I've been part of the last T Splost and excited to share tonight about T Splost 2 and as we present this project list development forum. And so we'll start the slides. All right, you can follow along on minty.com. As we get to some of the questions, there will be a code to enter to interactively participate in the questions that we have going through this presentation. To begin with, what is T Splost? So it stands for Transportation Special Purpose Local Option Sales Tax. In November of 2016, Fulton County residents, not including the City of Atlanta, approved a 0.75 cent or 3/4 of a penny sales tax for transportation purposes. And we call this T Splost 1. It was the first T Splost for the county. And what we're going to be talking about tonight is a possible second round of the T Splost. So T Splost 1, the collections began April 1st of 2017 and will run through March 30th of 2022. Or until up to the maximum amount designated as $655 million is collected for the county. Right now, we're on track to collect approximately $5 million for the county. To the right on this slide is our project list for the City of Milton under T Splost 1, and we have projects listed in 3 tiers, and the tiers relate to those projected collections of the sales tax. So at the time that the first T Splost list was put together, we anticipated the maximum amount of $655 million, which represents the all the tier 3s for every city and the county added together. So the individual cities in the county are responsible for implementing the approved project list, and the projects are split into purposes and specific projects, again, based on those 3 tiers, where Tier 1 represents 85% of the anticipated collections. Tier 2 represents if 100% of those collections are received, and Tier 3 is if we receive 115%. T Splost projects are grouped according to roads, intersections, bridges, sidewalks, bike paths, and in general, transportation-related purposes. So tonight we'll talk about a T Splost 2 potential referendum that is looking for vote in November of 2021. So our Milton events we have lined up to prepare for this are the Project List Development Forum event held today. We have a project list comment form available on our T Splost website. Plan to present the results from tonight as well as the comment form for discussion at the May 17th City Council work session. And we're looking for a vote on our project list either May 24th or June 7th at the City Council meeting. Once all the cities have their project list together, the county will develop a intergovernmental agreement with all the cities and the county for establishing the percentages that each city represents and the project list. Then the county will adopt a resolution by the Board of Commissioners, basically for the election, and election day is anticipated for November 2nd. Our funding estimate for this T Splost round 2 is projected at $525 million for the county. City of Milton is 6.49% of the Fulton County population. So our tier 1, 2, and 3, based on that projection, are $29 million for tier 1. Tier 2 would be an additional $5 million, and tier 3 an additional $5 million on top of that. So somewhere in the range of $29 to $39 million available for the City of Milton. The collections for T Splost 2 would pick up as soon as T Splost 1 ends, so it would begin April of 2022 and run for 5 years. Just to highlight how improvement projects have been funded in the history of the city, we have several sources of funding. There's the federal and state funds, and then local funds. So first I'll talk a little bit about the left side of this slide, the federal and state funds. Some examples of some of those projects that have been underway or completed through those programs. The State Route 9 widening that's currently in design, that is one of those types of projects. Improvements at Birmingham Highway and Batesville Road, that left turn lane, that was funded through state funds. The projects funded with federal or state do follow a very detailed process, and it can add time to completion of the project. There are some projects where the city contributes a matching funds to state or federal projects. An example of that is the Heritage Walk project, the Northwest Crabapple, with 2 roundabouts and the new road that is out in front of City Hall. That typically requires a 20 to 30% local match. And as the example of the Northwest Crabapple, while it was a large project, from beginning of the project agreement to final acceptance of the construction was approximately 10 years. On the local side of project funding, that is through our general fund, capital projects fund, or impacts fees can be used to fund local projects. An example of a recent local project is the Freemanville at Providence roundabout that was funded with local capital money. And then the T Splost funds run directly through the city and again are able to follow a more streamlined process of using local money versus federal or state. This map shows from 2007, when the city was incorporated, to the present time, where projects have been completed or underway, and the different funding sources associated with those. So the T Splost 1 dots and lines shown on this map represent the projects that will be able to be accomplished over the 5-year funding of the T Splost, representing $32 million for the city. And these are the statistics of how much roadway, sidewalks, trails, roundabouts, turn lanes, different types of improvements that have been able to fund through the T Splost. The dark blue lines and dots represent federal, state, or projects with some of that city matching funds that have been completed. And that adds up to about $24 million over the 2007 to the present time. About $4 million of that is local matching money for the projects that the city was involved in, but included federal or state money. And I wanted to highlight the bridge at State Route 140 over Little River was included in that list, and it was approximately a $6 million project. Then we've got some federal and state projects that are underway that are in the lighter blue. So that is the State Route 9 widening. We have a couple bridges that are planned through GDOT funded, and then the Birmingham Crossroads project is underway through one of GDOT's operational programs. And the green are some of the projects that were done with local money only. And those include some bridges, some roundabouts, and some sidewalk projects. And to highlight some of the planning documents that go into developing project list, we look at our comprehensive transportation plan. The most recent one was adopted in 2016. We also have a comprehensive transportation plan for North Fulton. Then more recent plans, the comprehensive plan that's underway, the strategic plan that was recently adopted, and the trail prioritization plan, as well as the local road safety plan. So lots of planning documents build into creating projects that then can be funded through sources like T Splost. We would look at any T Splost projects from the first round that were not able to be implemented due to the funding being less than projected. And then also wanted to illustrate the project list development forum like we're holding tonight plays into helping develop those project lists for T Splost. So the strategic plan was recently adopted, and I just want to highlight one of the goals and some of the objectives related to transportation from that plan. One of the goals is to implement a transportation infrastructure that meets current needs, accounts for future growth, and allows residents to traverse Milton in a calm, safe, and efficient manner. And the objectives associated with that are alleviate traffic congestion, to reduce travel time and traffic speed, and improve conditions for walking and cycling throughout the city. The bottom part of this slide is some information from a plan we have underway called our Local Road Safety Plan. And this is really our goal statement from that plan. The City of Milton proactively strives through our Local Road Safety Plan to address roadway concerns through a combination of engineering, enforcement, education, and emergency services to strategically make our roadways as safe as possible. And so that Local Road Safety Plan will consider multiple strategies and develop an action plan to implement solutions that come out of that plan. And funding for that program will again support selection of and implementation of proven solutions. These are a list of the project types or purposes under the T Splost program. These were identified in T Splost 1, and there is a possibility to add others that may not fit into one of these categories, but these are the main types of projects that meet that goal of transportation-related improvements. We have congestion relief. In T Splost 1, that was the new Heritage Walk extension on the northeast Crabapple. Road widenings, it was the Morris Road widening project that is in design right now. So it's really adding capacity to the roadways to relieve congestion. Operational improvements look more at specific intersections. It could be anywhere from turn lanes and traffic signals to roundabouts. Bicycle and pedestrian improvements could include sidewalks, trails, and bicycle accommodations. Bridges would include repair, replacement, or improvements to the bridges. Quick response program is typically a smaller dollar value on a minor improvement project. The State Department of Transportation identifies projects under this type of category. Their goal is to look for projects that are under about $200,000. So this could be anywhere from striping to improving a radius at an intersection, just things that are easy to implement and address. And then the maintenance and safety category, that includes paving, shoulder widening, it could include signage and improvements like that. So now we'll move into our first question on Menti.com and enter code 45267562. And so of these categories, project types we just talked about, we're looking for input on what types you're most excited about to be considered with T Splost 2. And that code again is 45267562. You can select, I believe, any number of those. Seeing a couple for bicycle and pedestrian at 2, a couple others, 1 vote. As we get into the next couple slides, we'll show you how these project types and purposes were spread out across the first round of T Splost percentage-wise of the overall projects. Again, bicycle and pedestrian is got most number of votes so far. Maintenance and safety, we do typically spend some local capital and local general funds on maintenance and safety improvements, whether it's annual striping, roadway repaving. We do have programs, but the T Splost would definitely provide opportunity to provide more of those services each year. So like I said, this next slide shows what all has been planned or underway with the T Splost 1 and how that breaks out across the different funding type categories. Our biggest category in T Splost 1 was the operations and safety. That's the intersection improvements. So we have 6 roundabouts that are complete or in construction or in design right now that were part of that. We had 1 bridge, and then there's 3 intersections that are being evaluated right now through the concept development process to determine the types of improvements. We have the 1 widening project of Morris Road, and then the 1 new connection, the Northeast Crabapple Heritage Walk extension. Do have some sidewalks. We did some trail planning through the bicycle and pedestrian project type. So as I mentioned, we have some planning documents that laid out projects. A lot of those that were identified in those planning documents were incorporated into T Splost 1. There were some that were identified as lower tier projects that could be included under the operations project type or T Splost 2. So on the left side are projects that were listed in the Milton Comprehensive Transportation Plan as possible intersection improvements. And these could fall under a intersection efficiency or intersection safety category. On the right-hand side are some partner projects or that were identified in that more regional transportation plan, the North Fulton Comprehensive Transportation Plan. The intersections on Cox Road are shared. Roswell has 1 approach to each of those, so as a possible combination project with the City of Milton and City of Roswell could look at funding those intersection improvements. And then we have some intersections on the state route that we could partner with DOT on to advance those quicker than they may be able to do in-house. So those are some possible inclusions under that operations project type. Some others that didn't come out of those plans, but that have been brought up recently include looking at Cox Road at State Route 140 around where the new Cox Road Athletic Complex, the city-owned park is. And then Freemanville at Mountain, there's some that could really fit under the quick response type project of improving that turning radius at that particular intersection. So based on that list that was on the previous slide, as well as any others, what other types of intersections or any of these intersections would you specifically like to see improved and included in the T Splost 2? And just to go back and highlight what some of those were, we had Hopewell Road at Red Road, Hopewell Road at Francis Cogburn, Cogburn Road at Webb Road, Batesville at Taylor, Haygood at Bethany, Thompson at Red, Cox at Beatrice or Ebenezer, Cox at King, State Route 140, Arnold Mill Road at Ranchette, and then Birmingham Highway at Doris or Batesville, or Crabapple at Green. All right, get a few different responses here. So the Cox Road intersections, yep, that would be, there's two there that we could look at together, and like I said, possibly as a joint project with the city of Roswell. Hopewell at Red. So we did separated the left and right turn lanes on Red Road a few years ago, but realized that a further improvement could be applicable there, and this would be a chance to look at that in more detail. Red at Hopewell. Cogburn at Webb, yeah, with that one, we're looking at, it's the two approaches on Webb don't have separate left turn lanes, and the signal doesn't have phasing for those left turn lanes, so sometimes it's difficult with all the through movements on Webb to be able to make those left turns. So that could look at adding turn lanes there. Another one for Cox Road intersections. Cox at King. Red at Freemanville, we are looking at that one right now with, it's a T Splost 1 Tier 2 project. So we have started concept work looking at that one, but the improvement alternative has not been determined yet. We're just in the early stages of planning that one. And it may be that it's not completely funded under T Splost 1, so that one would carry over as a T Splost 2 project. Crabapple at Green, yes, working with the state to further improve that location. They did what they call the quick response project there, but looking at a larger improvement at Crabapple Green. Birmingham at Doris, looking at site visibility and turning lanes, possibly there. And Freemanville, Birmingham, that is a T Splost 1 project that is in design right now. All right, good input. So then getting into some of the other project type categories, one of those was maintenance and safety. So this slide represents a few of the enhancement type projects that could be looked at with that type of funding. We can do additional roadway paving of our collector roads. That's going to be our major roads through the city, or even a neighborhood paving program to address some of the subdivision streets. Signing and marking, we could look at additional pavement markings or signage around curves. We could look at sharrows or bicycle lanes. That bottom left picture is right out in front of City Hall here. The roadway has the share the lane marking and a share the road sign as a possibility. Some projects that come out of our local road safety plan could fit under this funding bucket. Bicycle accommodations as a maintenance and safety item, that could look like shoulder widenings, or like I mentioned, the pavement markings, the sharrows, as a maintenance and safety type enhancement. And finally, traffic calming. Typically we do those, we have a program that looks at residential neighborhoods. The bottom right picture is a speed table that was installed in a neighborhood, but there are other traffic calming elements that could be brought in with the local road safety plan. The top right picture shows the median and the plantings and the pedestrian crossing at Freemanville and Providence. Another one of those funding project types that we talked about was pedestrian and bicycle improvements. So what that could look like could be streetscape and pedestrian enhancements. We could look at, with the State Route 9 widening, we could look at adding features to enhance the streetscape or the pedestrian elements associated with that project being funded by DOT. But we could bring the more enhancement side through this type of funding. Could look at improvements in the form-based code areas, so crosswalks or pedestrian improvements. We have the sidewalk priorities. priority areas, which is shown in this map on the slide, the areas around schools and parks and within form-based code areas. Could look at implementing the community trail prioritization plan that lays out bicycle and pedestrian projects. Could look at bicycle accommodations that include more on-street facilities like bike lanes, whereas under the maintenance and safety, that was the bicycle accommodations were just widening the shoulders as a larger pedestrian bicycle improvement. We could look at actual bike lanes on specific roadways. And then the Big Creek Greenway Trail Connection Project, we do have that underway. It is partially federally funded. The local match is provided by the T Splost Fund, so continuing to look at that connection in the southeast area of the city. This slide's really just to highlight the number of bridges the city has, what is programmed, what is completed, and how much these cost. So the pictures are all the bridges that have been completed and the year they were completed and the approximate project cost. And then the lines without the pictures are the programmed bridges. So we have 3 programmed with the state for replacement, and then we have 1 that is a T Splost 1 funded bridge replacement. So when we look at these categories and how we lay out details describing projects under each category, we've really taken a broader approach to setting up this project list. T Splost 1, under the categories, listed a lot of specific intersection projects, which at that time we had a lot of larger intersections that were higher cost. Now that we're looking at a smaller list with lower cost improvements, really set up operations category, which is the intersections, into intersections that address efficiency and intersection improvements that address safety. We did list the Cox Road intersection improvements as a possible specific project type, and that could include improving 3 intersections along Cox Road. Under maintenance and safety, have a line item for paving, for components of the local road safety plan, and for traffic calming. The bicycle and pedestrian, looking at bike accommodations and those pedestrian enhancement opportunities, and the community trail prioritization plan implementation. For bridges, we would list that as major repairs or improvements, and one we've identified in the past through our last comprehensive transportation plan was looking at the New Providence Road Bridge. For quick response, we would just call that out as minor improvement projects. And then there is also a bucket for program management, which could include inspections, right-of-way acquisition, and just overall program helping manage the T Splost program. Again, this is just a possible list and taking a more broad approach to detailing the specifics under each project type. This slide is a proposal of, based on those project types, what some funding allocations could look like. So the first graph on the far left represents what we're looking at for Tier 1, which is $29 million, and how that could fall, again, across those different types with operations, which that was intersections being the highest number, at possibly $10 million, and bike ped being just under that at $6 million, having bridges in that category, in the tier 1 list, some maintenance money, looking at about $1 million in paving every year for that 5-year period, and then some quick response money. Again, this is just a scenario of, based on those project types, how funding could lay out across Tier 1. The middle graph is Tier 1 would stay the same. You would just be looking to add another $5 million So putting that in operations and bike ped could be a recommendation. And then tier 3, if 15% more of the tax is collected, you're looking at, again, another $5 million, which tier 1 and tier 2 would carry over. So we're just kind of looking at those top 3 bars, again, operations, bike ped, and then possibly some additional quick response money. So now we'd like to hear from you through Menti.com to identify which of these categories you think should be funded at the highest level, with 5 representing, say, 100% of the funding, and 1 being 0%. The tiers I presented were just options, again, looking at these 5 categories and how important each one is. Right. Maintenance and safety. Then intersections and bike ped being about equal on this response. Bridges and quick response a little lower than that. Now bike pedestrian has jumped ahead. Intersections close behind. Yeah, this is a good opportunity to be able to implement some of the bicycle pedestrian plans and look at those improvements, especially as a second round T Splost. The first one addressed so many of the major intersection improvements, so it's nice to be able to look at other project types with the second round. All right, well, that concludes the presentation. We do have a project website set up with all of our details on what's underway, what's going on with T Splost 1, as well as a comment form for these T Splost 2, again, to look at thoughts on the project types and specific projects as well. So we'll be monitoring that and getting the results from tonight, as well as any comments we receive over the next week, and being prepared to discuss those at the work session. And if there's any comments on any of our virtual platforms, or if any of our in-person attendees would like to make any additional comments. Good. All right, well, thank you all so much for attending and listening, and we'll be looking for more feedback through our comment form. Thank you very much.